Thank you. Welcome everyone to the July agenda briefing, to councillor staff, members of the gallery and those that may be viewing online. Disclaimer, agenda briefing sessions are used to inform councillors on the items of business to be presented and discussed at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. These meetings are open to members of the public who may request to present a deputation to council relating to an item on the agenda. No decisions are made at these meetings, although councillors can request additional information or alternative wording be provided to allow for motions to be prepared for consideration at the forthcoming ordinary council meeting. Any statement regarding any planning or development application made during an agenda briefing session is not to be taken as notice of approval. Anyone who has an application lodged with the Shire must obtain and should only rely on written confirmation of the outcome of the application and any conditions attached to the decision made by council. An audio and visual record will be made by means of live streaming of these proceedings and uploaded to the Shire's YouTube page for viewing. Acknowledgement of country. The Shire of Harvey acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal community, their cultures, and to elders past, present and emerging. Record of apologies and leave of absence. Apologies is nil, and we have Councillor Carboni on an authorised leave of absence. Declarations of members and officers' personal interests. We have a number from Councillor Dickinson in relation to item 5.4.3 and 5.5.2. Are there any others? Councillor Hitchcock.
Yes, similar to Councillor Dickinson for 5.5.2, I'm on the Community Grant Assessment Panel.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman, the same.
And I will declare the same as well.
And the CEO. So minute taker, we have Councillor Hitchcock, Councillor Coleman and the CEO for 5.5.2, impartiality interest, and Councillor McCarthy.
No, not for that one.
No, which one?
Sorry, same as Councillor Dickinson's first one for 5.4.3. I'm a delegate on the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council.
Wait one moment. 5.4.3 for BHRC. Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, impartial interest. I'm a Bunbury Harvey Regional Council. I'm the deputy on the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council.
Any others, councillors or staff? No? Thank you. Did we capture all of those? Thank you. Alrighty, we will move now into deputations, and we have one deputation this afternoon from Mr. Tony Jurasev, and I hope I've pronounced your surname correct, Tony. Welcome, and please come forward to the lectern. There'll be a button to press on the microphone. Hopefully you'll see it there, and there we go, you're on. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do a presentation today. This is, I guess, my first ever presence here, so don't know what your format is, but I'll stick to the, I guess, what's been on the agenda, so use that as a framework and carry on from that. Okay, so what we're saying is, from the Brunswick Ag Society, we've entered into a partnership agreement, so we have a in-kind support from the Shire for $13,057, which is numerous things like providing bins and collection of bins and hire of the grounds, etc. And also there is an annual cash contribution of $15,750, which we invoice and do a commitment on it. There's been some correspondence which are attached as attachment 3 and attachments 4 in your reference. What's happened in initially with the Ag Society doing our own building upgrades, there was a proposal to actually put in an industrial kitchen into the Murray Piggott kitchen members pavilion, and there was an application of $50,000 went through and it got approved. That went through over 12 months ago or even further, but at this stage, with the Shire doing a surveys of building, we are considering to put a pause on that because we don't have a lease agreement at the moment, so we don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. So, you know, I guess you respect our requirements to actually have something on hand to see whether the buildings are robust enough to do any further upgrades on it. It's pointless just spending, you know, $150,000, $200,000 on something, and then Shire comes along and say, well, this doesn't meet any approvals because the foundations of the building weren't correct. So that's where we are on that point. In addition to our further workings, we have now engaged a events coordinator, and what we've basically, one of the other correspondence came through was a request for additional assistance in the financing of the events coordinator to the value of between $25,000 to $30,000 for the events coordinator. Now, the events coordinator, in the past, we've had volunteers, and you know, volunteers are not embracing the traditional participation of being involved in an agricultural society and having the enjoyment of doing that. So, young people are all disappearing, and the volunteering has become so great, and plus the greater requirements for all the documentation required for a show. You know, it's become very officialised. They're very detailed documents. You know, it includes risk management, traffic management plans, emergency, all the food licenses, processing, the vendor applications, etc. And just to give you an idea of our show, it's the biggest show we say in Australia. It's always one person more than what Runa is, but it's the biggest in your Shire. And just to let you know, we have over 22,000 people attended on a good year. And as of last year, we had 48 machinery vendors. We had 194 general vendors and 93 food and beverage vendors. So that's 335 vendors we actually got a plan for, and that's what the event coordinator does. And of that, we had 373 vendor sites. So some people had multiple sites. So the person that we've now engaged carries on the coordination of all that work. It's a person that's sort of involved in the industry, professional. She's based in Busselton, so she's doing a fantastic job. So the actual amount that we pay this person is around $60,000. So what we're looking at is having a contribution from the Shire, because we are all looking to have a fantastic show. We bring a lot of people into the community, and it raises the profile of the Shire of Harvey. So is there any questions on?
Thank you, Tony. So you answered my question. You've actually already engaged an events coordinator to
Yes.
the value of $60,000,
Yes.
and you are seeking between $25,000 and $30,000 to offset that from the Shire.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. Let me go to Councillor McCarthy and then Councillor Bromwell. Councillor McCarthy.
Just regarding having employed an events coordinator, the $60,000 per annum, is that person working for 12 months of the year?
The way it's been organised is we thought about various ways of how we're going to pay her, and she prefers to have it split over a 12-month period. So
and how many months would they actually be working, her be working?
Well, it's almost 12 months per year, but it tapers off, so it builds up from about June, May till end of the show, which is October. So then it sort of ramps down, and you're still doing some administrative work. So, you know, we survey the industry, and that's the sort of level of employment remuneration you need to give a person.
Councillor Bromwell.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I guess I look at it, the money that we provide anyone with comes from our ratepayers. So I just wondered, you actually make money from the gates. I remember coming there and paying for tickets on the day. Is there a capacity for your organisation to raise the money through your gates revenue to cover the person you have employed?
We already have raised the rate, the actual fees this year because of just general increase of costs. So it will just depends how this year how it progresses, and because the majority of funds that we do raise actually gets donated out to worthy contributions to other non-for-profit organisations. But At the moment, we're covering it internally, so we'll just determine what the outcome will be after the first year.
So Tony, if council determines not to support this request, you obviously have the capacity to cover it for this coming show? Yes?
It would be, yes.
Okay. All right. Councillor Holly?
Thanks, Tony. I was just wondering, the 50,000 for the kitchen now, you've just put that aside at the moment, or you've stopped that?
Well, we don't know the outcome of the survey of the building.
So that won't be in the next year or two, would you think, or?
Well, we're waiting for a lease arrangement to come in from the Shire, so then we're aware of where we stand.
And then you'll start it again, that process?
It depends on whether that's the most profitable way to go forward.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because the Brunswick Ag Society is partway through the partnership agreement, is there the capacity to make changes to that partnership agreement to cover this funding, or would the current partnership agreement continue for the length of the term, and this would be an additional amount of funding?
Through the CEO to Ms Hazelhurst.
Thank you, Madam President. That would be a decision of council. Officers are recommending that should council choose to support the request for the extra funds, that it be brought into the existing partnership agreement, and council approves a variation to that partnership agreement.
Just to follow up, Ms Hazelhurst, that partnership agreement of 15,750 thereabouts, it's not tied to anything, so the Ag Society can utilise that funds as they see fit.
That's correct.
Okay, so Tony, what would you utilise the partnership funds for? What would the Ag Society use the 15,750 for that's involved in that partnership? Are you able to answer that?
We have various expenses that we that actually put through. So without sort of going through each of the details, it goes into a pool of funds. Yeah.
Lovely. Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you give money away to not-for-profits, I guess. Yeah, so when we say that, what are we talking about in the amount of money that you actually give away on a yearly basis to not-for-profits, and who might they be?
Well, we've had a long association with the Southwest Riding Association, where we actually pay for their insurances, which is like $5,000 a year. We have various other donation initiatives. Like this year, it's going to be the Darcy effect, which is a young lady that had a child that went through epilepsy and had to go to the hospital, and she started a fund now with making little carry bags with detergent or shampoos and brushes and that, because you've found a need for that. So that's what we're supporting this year. Previously, we've had a cow that we've painted, Clarabelle. That's raised several $100,000 for I can't remember. There's been various associations of I can't remember what the fund was, but it's people actually buy the cow and they actually use it for fundraising. So MGM bought it the first year, and then one of the local medical practices in Bunbury have had it the last 2 years. So yes.
Councillor Dickinson.
So it's I am, because I'm a committee member on the Ag Society, so I do have a bit of background knowledge, but a lot of organisations use the Brunswick Show as a fundraising activity, and what do they get in return for providing their volunteer hours, and in return for assisting the Ag Society? Could you just elaborate on that for the rest of the council, please?
We have a lot of volunteers. After the show, we have people like the Fire Brigade volunteer, and we give them a donation. We have the Lions do man all the gates, and they get anything from $25,000 to $30,000, and all of their funds are just donated to everyone else. So we're part of a chain that actually originates the funds, which go into people that do the volunteering, and then they donate that to the community. So the Lions, the Fire Brigade, the Catholic school. So we try and have as many people in the local community involved. So the actual is as part of the fundraising for the year.
Righty, are there any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Tony. We'll take that under consideration. Thank you very much for your deputation
Okay, thank
today.
you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll move into the officers' reports. First one being 5.1.1, the South West Country Zone meeting minutes for June 2026. Did we have any questions, councillors? No, thank you. I'll move on to 5.1.2, which is the Council Plan Quarterly Report, Quarter 4, 2025 to 2026. Did we have any questions in relation to that item? Councillor McCarthy.
I have a few questions if I can. Just on page 17 and again on page 27, both of those show that they're in progress. Page 17, third row, the Harvey Football Club change room shows it's in progress 0 to 25%, but then states is completed. I know that once a building's finished or whatever, there is a time or a governance thing, but would that not show 75 to 100%? Is there a reason?
CEO?
The report is at the 30th of June, but you are correct. Those percentages should be adjusted, so we can look at that and adjust them administratively. Thank you.
And page 23, fourth row, life skills workshops. I note that they are offered in Harvey High School, Harvey Primary School. I just wondered whether Australind High School, Mercy College and Hope Christian are incorporated or if they're invited at all.
Through to Ms Hazelhurst, are you able to respond?
I'm sorry, I will have to take that on notice, but I'll get a response out to you before next week. Thank you. Sorry, what page was that again?
That was page 23, fourth row. And page 103, a water sample thing there for the Brunswick River. Just wondering whether there is expectation to be resampling that before summer swimming time.
Through to Mr Faber, is that you? No, it'll be Mr Hughes, thank you.
So through the chair, I'll have to take that on notice again.
Ms Williams, are you able?
Sorry, and it was before Mr Hughes's time here, but it's on our risk register as part of a compliance audit. We do testing as soon as the water is above 25 degrees. So as soon as the EHO team are aware of the temperature increase, they'll start testing again. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ms Williams. Are there any other questions, councillors? No, thank you. I'll move on to item 5.1.3, which is the Council Action Register, January to June 2026. Any questions, councillors, on item 5.1.3? All good, thank you. I'll move on to 5.1.4, which is the Council Plan for 2025 through to 2035. Any questions in relation to that one, councillors? Councillor McCarthy.
Sorry again. Just on page 11, the fourth paragraph, we talk about all the different things within the Shire, and everything else is generic except the binning up desal plant. So I wonder if we could just have that as a desalination plant rather than naming the company. We don't name any of the other companies. And on page 69, there's various playgrounds binning up Virgo, etc. But Braidwood Drive is not in that list, and I'm just wondering, is it still on our radar?
It's still on our radar. Mr Faber?
Yeah, it's in this year's budget. Yep. So Braidwood's still in there.
Maybe could we add that to that list,
Noted.
please?
Yep, thank you. I'll just wait till Councillor McCarthy's finished, then I'll come
Yeah,
to you, Councillor.
last one.
Last one, yep.
Page 110, and in last paragraph, we've got the market survey numbers for the workshops, which really was quite interesting. Just wondering if we could have some feedback about the number of surveys for each, because the market surveys, it said about number of people who attended particular workshops. Could we have from different areas, whether or not we could have the feedback included in there of how many surveys were collected also, because obviously that incorporated as part of that.
CEO through to by location for the community school.
Yeah, through the chair, I do believe we have that information, and the scorecard is readily available online as well. So if it's in there, we can pop it into the council plan.
Councillor Bromham?
Old one, but a good one. I've been asking for a while to have the heavy industrial area of Kemerton included in the image. And I think I've been doing that for about 3 years now. And I know we've got agile management, but I just wondered if we could actually manage that at some point in time.
It's to identify Kemerton, is that right? Is that what you're after?
Yeah, just to outline where Kemerton is. I think given the discussion we had with the South West Development Corporation today and the importance of understanding where our industry and areas are, I think it would be good if it appeared on all our maps so that people could actually see, yeah, we're not just a rural area and that there's plenty of other things going on in our shire.
CEO?
You do have a new CEO, so maybe that can be considered. I do believe the current mapping aligns with our local planning scheme, and so that's why that's in place. But see how you go.
You have been asking about it a lot.
Yes, I know.
We will take that on notice, yes. Councillor Bromham, and we'll investigate that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Coleman?
Thanks, Madam President. I must say I haven't had time to review all the papers, so I will send through some questions to staff during the week. I was working all weekend. But my question is, back on 5.1.3, we don't need to refer to it as such, but we used to get council action register prior to January. So where's the ones that were outstanding prior to January?
CEO? We're skipping back to 5.1.3.
Yes, I believe the council report states that it will be provided at the end of the calendar year. I believe that's what's written in the report. But you are correct. Normally it is provided every 6 months when this report is provided through to council. So I believe we've got an updated copy, so that can be attached.
So we'll do an addendum to this report. And what was the request prior to?
Yeah, there was always one prior to January.
January.
Yeah, it went over a couple of years.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Thank you.
I'll look at that one. Thank you. Any other questions? Back on to 5.1.4 in relation to the council plan. All good. Thank you. 5.1.5 council service plans 2026 to 2027. Councillors, are there any questions in relation to this? Councillor McCarthy.
Just one. Just in the, I found all the information quite interesting. When it comes down to the bit that says the community feedback rating, is that from the market survey or is that from contemporary feedback?
Through to you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Through the chair, it is from the market scorecards. So they were our ratings as of 2025, and I think the next one is now scheduled for another 2 years' time. So we won't get updated feedback until then.
Councillor Bromham.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted, I sent this through, but I wondered if we could get when we talk about swimming pools, that we mention both the Australian swimming pool and the Dr. Tobin pool. The reason for that is it is part of the LLC, but it is a swimming pool, and I'd like to type of see them in the actual document. You do have it in the, you don't have it in the first column, but you do mention it in the second. But I'd like to see it across the other side as well, so we can actually see it as part of the LLC.
Sure, through the chair. So two separate services instead of in the service outputs, is that?
Yeah.
Any other questions, councillors, in relation to the council service plans? No, thank you. 5.1.6, which is the workforce plan for 2026 through to 2030. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, just a query. In the council plan, we show that there's the CEO, then there's 4 directorates underneath. In the workforce plan, we show that there's the CEO and 5 basically directorates or reports through. So just perhaps we could have a bit of an explanation on why there's a difference.
Through to Ms. Williams, do you want to have
It's just the diagram.
Through the chair, yeah, I think it's just the diagram, but there are 5 directorates.
My apologies, I was looking at on the council plan on page 7, it lists the 4 with the CEO as part of our organisation. There's no suggestion that there's a 5th one anywhere in the council plan. I would think that perhaps they should align.
The executive, the office of the CEO is a directorate as such in regards to having governance and strategy, public relations and communication and special projects sitting underneath it. So the way that our organisation is displayed in the council plan necessarily has the 5, the directors and the CEO and their directorate areas. So it is displayed slightly differently in the workforce plan, but similarly there are 5 areas of directorates in the Shire.
Sorry, I'm obviously missing something. So in the council plan, you've got CEO with some responsibilities, yeah? Then you've got Director Corporate Services, Sustainable Development, Infrastructure Services, Community and Lifestyle. When we go to the workforce plan, we've got the CEO sits above all of those. So the Executive Services is a completely separate directorate answering to the CEO, not part of the CEO. It's just really about aligning the two together. Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. Maybe Executive Services could be the directorate of the CEO, or the CEO is actually responsible for the 4 directorates and the office of the CEO, as in the Executive Services. So I am ultimately responsible for all of those areas. And similarly through the council plan with the directors and their individual directorates, the CEO is still responsible for those, as well as the business units that sit underneath the CEO's unit. But we can consider whether there is a better way to display that information.
I understand
so it's clear.
I understand the CEO's definition there, but I also see Councillor Coleman where they look different. So if we can consider aligning either document, whichever one's easier, if we can have a look at that, and so they reflect the same.
The wording's the same, it's just the diagram
the
is
diagram,
different. Yeah,
correct.
so we can change the
Yeah,
diagram.
so
That's
one of them change to reflect the other, and then there'll be no confusion then. Yeah, it will reflect.
I thought in the past that the Executive Services was actually directly under the Chief Executive Officer before it went to the rest. I think the CEO went through those and showed that it was a direct, I mean, I know they're all direct reports, but a direct role, if you like, rather than an additional 5th one.
We'll work towards consistency in either of the 2 documents. Any other questions in relation to the workforce plan, councillors? Councillor McCarthy.
Sorry. just page 10 and 11, there's reference to Albemarle, and I wonder if that's still relevant. So page 10 and page 11. So in page 10, it's somewhere where it says, talks about the location of economic development.
Albemarle, okay.
Yeah, and on page 11, there's a similar, page 11 on about labour market.
Yep, okay.
And then on page 23, it talks about Shire focus, equipment and resources. And I just wonder if I can have some sort of elaboration about what that means. Is it talking about a focus about office space or?
It's just on the last page.
Section B.
Thank you. So access to equipment and resources mostly referred to physical resources, equipment, whether that be safety equipment, laptops, etc. The priority came from the culture scorecard, so that was officers and the outside workforce, and they indicated that they felt that we needed to do more work in that space. So it is everything, access to all of our resources, whether that be technology, laptops, machinery, etc. Yeah, gloves.
A microphone, thanks, Councillor McCarthy.
Not so much about office space, more about resources in laptops, safety equipment, etc.
There was a separate indicator which is noted in the actions, which referred to office accommodation and space. Yeah.
Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, just a quick one. Are we going to get a presentation on the culture scorecard like we did last year or last time?
CEO or Ms Williams,
Yeah.
did you want to respond?
Through the chair, we did provide the indicators from the culture scorecard at the workshop. I think it was last month or the month before with council, and we discussed the workforce plan. And I showed most of the indicators from that report in that session as well. Yep, through the chair, I can provide the PowerPoint slides again if you like.
Yeah, if that's of value, we'll send those out. Yep, thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, we'll move on to item 5.1.7, review of local laws, which we received a presentation on this afternoon. Any questions, councillors? No? Okay, thank you. 5.1.8, we're looking at delegate nominations for the 2026 Welga AGM. So if you'd like to consider that for the OCM next week, if you'd like to nominate as proxy voting delegates or a voting delegate. So if you give that some consideration. Councillor.
Sorry, for that, would you need to have been to Wolga meeting, Southwest Wolga or whatever, beforehand?
No.
Point of order, Madam President. Ours only goes to 5.1.6 in Docs on Tap. Yeah. We don't have 5.1.7 or anything else. Well, John hasn't got it. I haven't got it.
I can see in the index on the left-hand side that it's not coming up, but when I scroll through the agenda, I can see 5.1.7 and also, let me check, 5.1.8. No attachment? No, there is no attachment listed for the AGM or the local laws review. So yeah, apologies, it doesn't come up on your left-hand side index, but it is actually in the agenda briefing document.
So, question was, in relation to the nomination for the Welga AGM, no, you don't have to be a member of the Southwest Welga Zone. Alrighty. So just give that some thought if you wish to nominate for those positions. There are 2 voting delegate positions. Councillor Coleman, you look. Yeah?
It's all right, on our screens here, we've got the local law one. I've just scrolling through to see where we're at.
Oh, we're at 5.1.8. Yeah, that's all right.
That's okay, Helen.
Yep.
Thank you. Perfect.
There we go. Beautiful. Okay then, happy with that? Okay, we'll move on to infrastructure services, which I note is nil, and so is sustainable development, nil. So we'll move on to corporate services, 5.4.1, which is financial statements as at the 30th of June 2026. Councillors, do I have any questions? No, thank you. We'll move on to item 5.4.2, which is payments for June 2026. Do I have any questions in relation to payments? Councillor McCarthy?
I did send these through beforehand, so I'm hoping there's some information there. Just on page 1, CP 55.37 about temporary ranger services. I noticed that there's pretty much 1 each week, and it's around $3,000, $4,000. Is that $3,000, $4,000 include salary plus the recruitment agency's costs, or?
Mr Winter through to Mr Faber. Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, that includes all of that as well as superannuation, penalties and call-out allowances.
And then on page 5, lines 4 and 5, CP 56.56 and 0.57 regarding the sale of Ridley Street, Brunswick. What did we purchase there, or how much of Ridley Street? Is that, is it the land, or what was that?
Mr Faber again.
Through the chair, there was a small portion of Ridley Street within the rec reserve. As part of the upgrade of the power, we had to amalgamate 4 lots into one. Western Power don't like power going over multiple lot boundaries, so that was what the purchases was done for.
And page 8, CP 57.4, Annie's Angels bus hire service. I'm just wondering, with that, is the cost of that recouped through the fees charged to parents by HRCC?
Ms Hazelhurst.
Thank you, Madam President. What we charge the parents is $38.50 per day, and up until we started using the bus, we were not accepting any enrolments from St Anne's School. So we've determined that in order to cover the cost of the bus, we need to get 4 extra enrolments per day from St Anne's. We're currently working on ensuring that we have the surety of staff to increase the numbers, which hopefully will happen in the next week or so, and then we'll be pushing hard to get those extra 4 staff. So at the moment, no, but soon, yes. It's not actually, it's to do with the number of people that we can actually service. So it's basically extra enrolments are covering the cost of the bus service.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. And last one, page 8, CP 57.7 ATF Family Trust. That was part of the storm cleanup, and I recognise that there were several entries for storm cleanup, which I totally understand. But this one being for $23,800 for storm cleanup. I was wondering, is that special services, or would they provided most of the storm cleanup? You know, why it was quite a lot more.
I have a follow-up in regards to there's quite a few payments there around relating from the storm damage. So do we get that reimbursed through insurance, or Mr Faber?
Just on the first question, so that payment was for 2 crews, so that provider provided 2 crews. I'm not sure about the 1 week. I don't have any information that says that was for a 1 week period. At that point in time, this company has probably done about 5 weeks clean up with us. We've had also other companies that have participated in that. At the moment, I think we're somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 worth of clean-up costs. And to answer the President's question, all of that funding that we've spent will be submitted for insurance claims, and that would include the traffic management that was also asked about.
Thank you very much, Mr Faber. Are there any other questions in relation to Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, I just understand I'm going back to the bus and the cost in relation to that and the 4 extra students. There's no cost in having those 4 extra students at the facility? Because obviously you're using the money from those 4 people to pay for the bus. So are we losing money there, or can that be absorbed because of the?
The second part, it will be absorbed. We've been limited in the number of students we can take per day. We have a capacity of 20. We've only been able to take up to 11, partly because of the bus, but also partly because of staffing and making sure that we have qualified childcare officers on site. As I said, we're working on that at the moment. So there's been a range of different things that we've worked on to try to enable us to reach our capacity, our licence capacity, and that's what we're planning. So ideally, we'll get more than 4 extra students per day.
Thank you.
Okay, payments. Any further questions, councillors? Thank you. We'll move on to item 5.4.3, which is the annual budget for 26-27. And there is an addendum that came through in relation to the submissions that were received. So hopefully you've cited that, councillors. 16, I think, all up submissions. 23 submissions. So, councillors, are there any questions in relation to the budget? Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Madam President. I did send through a couple of emails. Hopefully staff got them and have had the opportunity to look at them and perhaps investigate if they could, and I'm happy, if need be, for these questions to be taken on notice. There is a few of them. I just believe that we could demonstrate the community that every reasonable efficiency measure and project reprioritisation has been considered before we settled on the proposed rate increase. So the questions I have are, and would you like them in bulk or deal with them one at a time?
Deal with them one at a time.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Are employee costs increasing faster than service demand?
CEO. Through to Mr Winter.
I think they're increasing alongside each other. Hard to say that one's increasing above the other when it's all service delivery that we produce, and the level of service demanded of the ratepayers actually requires someone to do that job or provide that service. So I think it's hand in hand.
Thank you. In relation to the additional revenue, what does that additional revenue fund?
So the additional revenue raised by, and sorry, I haven't seen this email, so that's why I'm a little bit blank on this one. The additional revenue that we're raising through rates is for the production of additional growth, if you want, as well as the impact of additional cost of our services. The predominant additional cost of services relates to capital type of works. Everyone would be aware of the impact of fuel increases. We've had a 19% increase in fuel over the last 12 months. A lot of what we actually do on the road is fuel-based. The bitumen's
as well as the running of the trucks and the like. So that's had a significant impact. Our insurances go up above CPI. A lot of our other costs go up above CPI. Our contracts typically go up significantly above CPI. So a lot of the, excuse me, additional cost that we have is taken up with those additional rate revenues.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. And where do we sit in comparison to other local government areas, compatible local government areas and their rates settings?
Can I probably just preface that firstly, that when we produce the budget, we look at the services that we want to provide to our ratepayers, look at the revenue streams that we have, and then work out the deficiency that needs to be funded through the production of rates, rather than how do we compare to other local governments. So just to get that on the table. However, the Shire of Harvey has always compared very favourably, especially in relation to southwest local governments. And for example, I can tell you that with the proposed rate increase for this year, we would still be under the rates generated, or the rate cost per property with the same valuation if you're in the city of Bunbury. The same applies for a number of the southwest local governments. We actually compare very well.
Thank you. And I've just a couple more. Given that our employee costs are estimated to rise by nearly $3 million, could it be explained as to how much is attributed to EBA wage growth?
Thank you for the question, through you, Madam Chair. You mentioned 3 million. If you're looking at 3 million, I'm assuming you're comparing the actuals to next year's budget, and we haven't finalised the actuals because we still have accruals and the likes to go. But if we're looking at budget to budget, the variance between last year's budget and this year's budget for employee costs is $2 million, or $2,076,000, I think it is. Of that, approximately 1 million has been set aside within the budget for EBA increases. About 500,000 of that increase has been allocated for restructure of the infrastructure engineering services area, which came to council last year. $100,000 of that is for other employee costs. Predominantly, that is in increases in workers' compensation insurance. That area also covers training. Then there's also an additional allocation that we've required for the acting CEO. There's also around about $120,000 in the Leisure Leisure Centre for the use of additional casual staff in the areas of aquatic swim school, and also for the Harvey pool, simply because of the difficulty in having full-time employees in that area. And then there's also, or the balance of that, was for additional staff that were employed last year, that were employed for a part of the year, and this year we're now funding them for a full section, or the full year. And they would include the GIS officer, Work Health and Safety officer, governance support officer, client side manager, and also there's some in there with building and planning. And I think that pretty much takes up that 2 million of the $25 million employee costs.
Thank you so much for a very thorough explanation, or answer, sorry, not explanation. And just finally, any of our FTE positions grant funded?
We do receive some grant funding. In fact, even with our customer service staff, we receive a commission for the service that they provide. So there's over $200,000 that the Department of Transport gives us for the service that they offer in Australind and also Harvey. But where possible, we're always out looking for additional grants to fund projects, plus also staffing.
I would just add that our Bushfire Mitigation Officer and also our Community Emergency Services Manager are partly grant funded by DFAS.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Bromman?
Yeah, thank you. Just so we understand, I know we look at 7% and whatever it is, you know, from the rate increase. What I'm wondering is when you look at it at a ordinary household, what does that actually mean in dollars?
We do say that it's the equivalent of an extra cup of coffee a week or an extra 2 cups of coffee a week, depending on the size residence that you have. I probably can get our manager of rates and customer service to answer that question, if that's okay.
Welcome, Emma.
Thank you for having me. The calculation, obviously UV is a little bit different because they are revalued every year, but the variation was definitely around $2 to $3 additional a week for most of our GRV residential homes. So it's like $150 a year. It's not a huge uptake.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, just a bit of an explanation, if I may, Mr. Winter. You mentioned Bunbury there. My understanding, which could be very wrong today, I'm not having a good day, their rate increase was 6.7%, and ours is 7%. So I just wanted to clarify, because I think you mentioned that we are often below them, and I don't have a problem with that. But just if you could explain that so that we're sort of on the front foot with this one. And the other thing is, my understanding is that the only way to significantly bring our rates down is to go back to doing only mandatory requirements by the local government rather than doing discretionary spending. So it would mean necessarily, and I ask for your confirmation, it would mean necessarily not putting a lot of the services in that people want rather than what they need. That would be the only way that we could look at any significant rate lowering over a period of time. Would I be correct in that?
Or I might add reduce level of services. So maybe not stop, but also another option would be to reduce the level of service. But sorry, Mr. Winter?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam President. The rates that we have pay for the services that we provide. So if we were to reduce our rates, then we would be looking at reducing service. Part of the difficulty in that is last year, for example, we looked at the Leschenault Leisure Centre and reducing some of the service there. So for parts of the Shire, you would get, yes, that sounds right, but for the Australind area, we actually had a lot of feedback that we wanted the kiosk, need the creche, etc. So yes, to answer your question, if you want to reduce rates, then reduce service. The problem is that there's a lot of people out there that want those services that we're currently providing, especially when you look to our neighbouring local governments and you see the service that they provide and they're wanting the same level of service. The other issue we have is that with the 7 major towns that we have, they're comparing against each other, and when one gets a skate park, the other one wants a skate park. It's not realistic. However, that level of service needs to be funded. We either do it or we don't. If we increase the level of service it's going to cost to have a savings, we reduce the level of service. In relation to the city of Bunbury, one of the difficulties that we have is we actually don't compare very well. We have an additional $115 million worth of infrastructure over that of the city of Bunbury, yet their rates are higher than ours, their population is very similar to ours, and we have to maintain that additional $115 million worth of infrastructure. Maintaining our roads, our drains and our footpaths comes at a significant cost, and it's not something that council can push back year on year. The reality is if you don't maintain your roads to a certain point, they get to a point where then you have to just replace them, and that cost is a lot higher than the maintenance costs. So we don't compare that like for like with the City of Bunbury. However, our rates are lower than theirs. We support a lot of towns and our population is similar. I hope that answers that question.
Mr Winter, a lot of the submissions that we've received say that we should just run with CPI, 4.8% or the like. If we were to do that, what impact would that have on our budget? So what would we be able to provide or not provide if we just ran with CPI?
Thank you, Madam President. And firstly, I'd like to thank those people that took the time to put their submissions in and actually let us know what their thoughts were. Unfortunately, most of the population don't understand, or most of the ratepayers don't understand the work that council goes through in deliberating on the budget. The couple of days in workshops, sitting down, going line by line and cutting things. You know, we had already cut the budget and we ended up with a 9%, required 9% rate increase, and then we cut it again to get it down to 7%. To reduce it further, i.e. if we were just to increase it by CPI, it would mean that we would have to reduce the level of service that we provide. One of the ones that we typically would look at for that amount of dollars is the maintenance of our assets, and really our assets are requiring that funding. It's not something we can push back.
Thank you. Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Winter. My understanding is if you don't pay your rates now, as in what we need to maintain our assets, regardless of what they are, is that basically those assets would then run down and we're passing that cost on to the future. Is that correct?
That is correct, and more so, the longer you put off the scheduled maintenance of those assets, the cost to replace them goes up substantially. It goes up hugely. I'm not an engineer, I don't have those figures, but I have seen the graphs previously where if you do push off that scheduled maintenance, the cost to the local government is, the additional cost is huge.
Thank you.
Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, I was just going to make a statement. It's no different to our own homes. If we put off, you know, fixing a leak in the roof, the ceiling will cave in or something else will happen. So I guess that knock-on effect is just in the millions rather than the tens of thousands for the most of us.
Thank you, through you, Madam President. Most of our assets, the dollar figure, are our roads, and the reality is when we do maintenance on them, we're correcting the seal. If you don't correct the seal, then you create gaps. The water goes into those gaps, the cars and the trucks go over it and expands in the base. And so you end up with the point that you then have to go and replace the full road rather than just the seal. So you're talking about a gutter. It's the equivalent of having some leaves that you can clean out of a gutter versus replacing all the gutters.
Thank you, Mr Winter, and that's actually really important information, both for councillors and anybody in our ratepayer base to understand. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor McCarthy?
Just looking at the budget on page 150, in the playground and equipment section, it's just a request. The Settlers Hall shows as changing shade sales, which was the original intent. Could we change the word sales to structure? Because that's what's happening now. Just I've had a few members from the community ask about why we're getting shade sales, but that's not what we're doing.
That's a very simple amendment. Councillor Bronwyn?
Yeah, this is my question from earlier on. I was told to hang on for. Under the officer's recommendation 10 of 10, it states that council adopt an amount of 30,000 any account transaction or variance to consider to be material. My issue here isn't just financial, but when we change quality. So if we're going to change the quality of what we're doing for some financial reason, it would be really good to get feedback on that before we do it. And I know that we've done this in the past and it's come back and bitten us because of the quality that we've provided has changed. So I just wondered, how do we get that in there? So we're not just talking about money, but we're talking about quality of the asset that we're putting in place.
A new asset or a major project, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about major projects. I'm talking about when we actually go in and retrofit material items within structures, that we make sure that what we're putting in is of a high quality as well. So if we're going to make changes for financial reasons, it's like, I'd like to know if we're going to change the quality, and does that quality meet Australian standards?
And what would you expect, like a report to come to council, would you, on those change? I'm just, before I go to the CEO or Mr Faber to respond, is that what you're asking, or?
Yes, I guess a briefing to us at some point, maybe during concept, or that allows us to know that we're going to make changes in quality and the reasons for that. Because sometimes what occurs is it might save us money and it might be under $30,000. So, but at the end it comes back and it costs us a lot more.
Mr. CEO, and then Mr. Faber, maybe?
I would say that it's necessarily the premise of project management in the Shire and the systems that we have relating to variations and making sure that it's value for money and being assessed by officers at the time. Variations of magnitude obviously will come to council if there's additional budget required, but at a project management level, those decisions and variations need to be assessed and made at the time to allow projects to proceed. What is required here is a financial requirement, which really can't be equated to the quality of the project that you're actually delivering. So I would say that they're two different processes. Mr. Faber,
I'll just go to Mr Faber, then I'll come to you, Councillor Coleman.
All I would add to that, would be very difficult to define at what level of change in quality would we bring that back to council. Would it be we had $20 taps and we went to $18 taps, or at what level would it be that we would have to report back to say that we've reduced that? And generally, within our scopes, we're not generally reducing the quality of what we're getting. I agree with the CEO. It's probably more about the financial requirements rather than what we're putting into our structures or buildings and the likes.
I'll go to Mr Winter and then, yes.
We include that last recommendation because we're required to, in accordance with the financial management regulations. I think it's regulation 34. We also have a policy in the next round, the next item, and one of those policies is on materiality. And the materiality side of it says information is to be considered material if by its omission or it misstates or has the potential to adversely affect the decisions about the allocation of scarce resources. And I guess that in itself, in our policy, encapsulates what you're saying, that we provide that information if it's required to make those sort of decisions.
Thank you.
Councillor Coleman.
Thanks, Madam President. I just wanted to confirm a point that Councillor Bromham just brought up. My assumption is that the Shire always meets Australian standards. Can you confirm that, please?
Mr Faber, maybe.
Look, as far as I'm aware, we're always endeavouring to meet the Australian standards. They are that, though. They are standards, so they're not law that we have to abide by them. But in, I guess, my area of parks, we're always trying to achieve the minimum as being the Australian standard in anything we do with lighting or playgrounds and the likes.
Any other questions, councillors? I will just finish off that, but should there be any amendments that you wish to make to this particular item at next week's OCM, if you are considering them, I just ask that you speak to staff to get the wording wrapped around that so that we're not doing them on the fly next week. If there's any deferments, now Mr. Winter, you gave me some figures there. Can you just advise council if that's a decision moving forward?
Thank you, Madam President. Because of the process that the budget has to be produced, or not the process, the format that it has to be produced in, if we were to make any non-administrative changes to the budget, if you wanted to reduce rates, increase rates, change an item of financial, something financial in the budget, we would require probably a fortnight to be able to turn that around. So we would have to bring that back to a special council meeting for adoption. And then the other thing is that just to be mindful that, this isn't to sway any decision making, it sounds like it's going to be, but every fortnight that we push off the adoption of the budget costs us roughly $45,000 in interest earnings that we don't make. So if there is a minor amendment, it might be worthwhile considering that at the budget review rather than pushing back the budget to a future date. But that is only...
That's a council decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winter. Okay, all happy with that, councillors? Thank you. We'll move on to item 5.4.4, the Corporate Services Policy Review for 2026. Were there any questions in relation to this one? I just had one which was in relation to the hardship policy, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Hitchcock. The hardship policy, I think I read that it was being delayed, Mr. Winter. If so, when will that be available for us to look at?
Thank you, Madam President. The hardship, financial hardship policy was intended to come to this meeting as well. We have done quite a bit of work on it. It needed to be totally reworked to take some of the subjectivity out of it and also include some vigour around what staff are able to do when they're talking to ratepayers. So that's the reason it actually hasn't come here. We weren't ready. We do intend to have it to council for the next round of meetings so that it's then in place before the due date for rates going forward.
Yeah, that was my good answer. That's what I was hoping for. Thank you. Councillor Hitchcock.
So this is relating to policy 2.2.12, page 1. It's the corporate credit card policy. So it says the credit card limit for the CEO shall be $20,000. The total combined limit for the Shire's corporate credit cards is a maximum $20,000. And then it says the CEO will determine the maximum limit for each corporate credit card issued to Shire employees up to $20,000. Is that correct? Because, yeah, is that correct?
Sorry, I don't have that in front of me. However, it's supposed to be that the total is not 20,000. So if it says 20,000, that's incorrect. I'd have to have a look at that and change that. That should be, I think, probably 60,000. I'll have to go back to the draft.
That's item 2.2, policy 2.2.12. Okay. We'll review that one. Just the figures.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We'll look at that.
Any other questions, councillors? Yep, very good. Okay, community and lifestyle, 5.5.1, which is the cultural diversity initiatives. Any questions around this one, councillors? I am excited to see what we come up with. thank you. 5.5.2, which is the Shire of Harvey Community Grant Program 2026. Any questions in relation to this one? Councillor Coleman.
Can I just lodge an impartiality interest against the Harvey Men's Shed, please? And then I've got some questions.
Yeah, you just pick up that impartiality. Thank you. Councillor Coleman, questions?
Questions, thank you. I've got a couple. The Southwest Horse Trials, the venue, I don't have a problem with the amount as such, but do they have a valid lease at the moment?
Ms Williams.
Through the chair, so they're on a holding over clause for their lease currently. There was a equine study which was happening with the community development team that's now finished, and I believe we are ready to renegotiate those lease terms with some minor changes, but the intention is that Southwest Horse Trials would be the lessee again. If that changes, we'd bring a report to council.
So we've previously agreed to look at funding for people with a lease, so we could make that conditional upon the lease being signed. That funding would that be correct?
Through the chair, so they are on a holding over, so they do have an existing lease on that holding over clause month to month, but we could certainly look to have it expedited in terms of their new lease agreement. They do have multiple users there, however, now, and there's going to be a bit of consultation that needs to occur between those user groups when we issue the lease, whether it should be conditional. Because it's coming from a Shire's perspective, it's probably our hold up that the lease is deferred in working with that consultation with the various groups. I think there's the Yarloop Equestrian Club and a few others. So I'm not sure on the fairness of tying it to that, given that it's our remit, but the director might have more.
And also given that we do have a holding over clause in effect, so it could be argued they currently have a valid lease.
Okay, as long as that, if the lease is not signed, we're not we're not doing different to anybody else that can get money without having a lease signed. That's all. Just equity across the Shire.
Through the chair, if I may, they do have a lease though, because there's a holding over clause. That's in effect. So basically, that says that they have a lease in place.
Thank you. The Harvey Men's Shed, I was just interested in the proposed build is significant cost and unlikely to receive funding. Just looking for an explanation of that, please, considering that they're looking at Lottery West and external funding. So just wondering why that would be there for as a public document.
We have had conversations with Lottery West. Lottery West contacted us about this project. And we were able to confirm that the Men's Shed had applied for funding for the project. It was indicated to us that unless it was in kind of biteable chunks, then it was unlikely that they would be able to give them the amount of money that was going to be needed from Lottery West. In one chunk. So that's potentially why it's not potentially, it's why the committee discussed providing some funding for design and scope refinement, and to bring the scope back into sizable chunks that can be funded in a staged approach.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Because my understanding is there's about 4 stages to it post this funding, if it's approved. So I'm just wondering about, it's a bit different, this one. We're being asked to fund the Shire of Harvey for $20,000 for the Yarloop workshop. So it just looks like we're short-circuiting the budget by putting it into a grant process rather than putting it straight into the budget. So we'd just like your input on that. It's just very unusual that we're funding ourselves, and I've been told many times we actually can't do that. So just looking for some
the
guidance.
optics, I suppose, around.
Sorry?
The optics around
Yep.
around it.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, we have on occasion done similar things with the skate park and at Binningup with the Coastal Communities Fund. I guess the intention here was to make sure that the initiative went through the assessment process as a worthy initiative in competition with the other initiatives that had been applied for, and the committee was of the opinion that it was actually a worthwhile thing and should be progressed.
And I totally agree. I think the initiative's fantastic. It's just that it looked strange that we're funding ourselves rather than putting it straight into the budget. So thank you for that. I'm just curious about the Brunswick Junction CRC. We reduced, the recommendation is to reduce it $2,000, although it does say that they have provided a revised budget. So does that $3,000 reflect the fact that the budget perhaps needs a bit more work to get the 5,000? What's the go on that one?
Through the chair, thank you. The amount that was put into the report actually reflects the budget that was resubmitted. So the reduction, thank you for nodding, Amani. I was glad I got the right end of the stick. Yes, that the resubmitted budget actually reduced the amount of request.
Thank you. And it probably leads on to the next one, which is the Harvey Historical Society. That's been reduced only by $850. So was that a revised budget submitted or something like that?
She's nodding again. Yes, it was. I think there was some clarity issues around the amounts that were submitted, and Marnie's worked really hard with all of those organisations that the committee asked for resubmitted budgets to make sure that it was clear and what we were providing was very transparent.
And thank you for that. And just one last one. The process for community partnerships, partnership grants. My understanding is that, we've had a great presentation today. My understanding is that the Harvey Connect were talking to staff over the last 6 months about potentially putting in for a community grant, partnership grant, to help fund a manager there who's getting very, very close to retirement and burnout. And they were told they weren't, my understanding is they were told they weren't eligible. So just looking for some feedback on that, because the service that they provide for Meals on Wheels and a lot of other things in the community is quite significant. So just wondering if perhaps they've been either given some misinformation or whether or not they should perhaps been talking to wrong person. What's the process for a community organisation like Harvey Connect that provides sort of essential services to apply for a partnership grant?
Thank you, Madam President. If I'll ask Amani to, our grants coordinator, she's the one who's been on the ground talking to everyone.
Thank you for your question around that. With the partnerships, yes, we did receive a request from the Harvey Connect, and we are working with them. We are hoping to get those partnerships through the grant process, which we have 2 rounds, so in May and October, and when we go to our second round in October, we'll put it to council whether they would like to open the partnerships, and that way they can have an application submitted through the grant round.
So they just needed more time and more work, I would suggest. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Bronwyn with your hand up there.
Yep. Do we have partnerships with any other organisations similar to the Connect in the Shire?
We do have 11 partnerships currently. There are 5 partnerships, 5-year partnerships, and there are 4 3-year partnerships. So there are various organisations in that. Sorry, I'm trying to find the list of them, but I don't have it with me. So in terms of similar, how do you exactly mean?
Well, I was thinking of the senior citizens in Australia, for instance.
We don't have a partnership with another senior cits in the Shire. We have the CRCs, and the ag societies. So no, at this stage, I would say no. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, in relation to that, there's lot 208.
Thanks for that. I was just looking for like, because obviously if you go into a partnership with Connect here, then the senior citizens in Australia will probably be asking for the same thing.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other questions, Councillor Dickinson?
Yeah, it's been touched on previously about grant recipients having current leases, and I'm just wondering what the status is with the Harvey Historical Society, taking into consideration that it is also ARC infrastructure.
Courtney. Sorry. You might want to ask that question again. Thanks, Councillor Dickinson.
It's zoned out of this one.
My apologies. I was just wondering what the status is for lease agreement for the Harvey Historical Society, taking into consideration that it's also ARC infrastructure.
Thank you. That is it's a bit of a long answer. So we have nearly finalised the negotiations with ARC Infrastructure for the whole area, for the whole precinct, which includes the station buildings and also Snell's Park. There are still some safety concerns for the rail corridor and the parts of our infrastructure which we would be responsible for that egress into the rail passage. So there's uncomplicated. There's meant to be 3 metres either side of the train track that we stay out of, but the buildings actually are within that 3 metres, and that presents a bit of a liability issue. Obviously, if someone's going into the Historical Society onto the platform, who's responsible for their safety where? So what we have done is the asset team have recently been there and done a survey of the area to establish which areas would be, I suppose, of greatest risk to the Shire if we were to enter into a lease agreement, and where our responsibilities would be for maintenance as well. And that is where we are at the moment. The fence is essentially in the wrong spot, and we are reconsidering again whether shifting that fence is the most appropriate way to make safe pedestrian safety on the site, which will unfortunately require further negotiation with ARC. We can't actually work inside the rail passage. So that's where we are at the moment. We can't provide a lease to the Historical Society until we have a lease with ARC. On it goes, I think.
Oh, Councillor Coleman, and then... Oh, no, sorry, Councillor Dickinson, follow up there, then Councillor...
It's probably going to be the same question. Therefore, if we are putting consideration on having a current lease agreement, how are we going to take that into consideration in considering the grant application?
Ms Hazelhurst, you want to give that one a whirl? You're dobbing in, Councillor Holt.
Yeah, I will take it on notice. Thank you. Ultimately, it's a council decision whether, having a lease agreement in place is actually a consideration. But if we can have a look at the policy and work out where we go to from there and potentially bring it back to a concept forum for discussion.
Ms Williams?
Yeah, and thank you, Susie, for mentioning the concept forum. So the action and direction from the executive leadership team is to bring a discussion to concept forum in relation to the precinct in its entirety before we progress any further negotiations with ARC Infrastructure. My intention would likely be that that would happen either in August or September. It is an entire precinct, and there's safety issues, events that happen in the space, and also the future. I guess precinct in terms of it being a museum in the Shire as well. So there will be money that needs to be spent to make it safe over time, and that will be a strategic council decision in terms of developing the site.
Councillor Coleman?
It's just daft, isn't it? It's just daft. But anyway, my question was going to be, and I think you might have just answered it before this one. So you can walk around the benches and go up on the train station by a ramp or by steps, right? But you're not allowed to go from the front of the train station through to the train station, which is less risk. We can't put just even the equivalent of a baby gate across there to stop people going there. We're not allowed to make any adjustments between. How daft is that?
Can I say that the state government's looking at, aren't they in negotiations with ARC Infrastructure to try and bring back the control of the rail network into the state government? So hopefully, and I'm not sure what that is, but hopefully the daftness that you're talking about may be addressed.
Just to follow up, and the CEO would remember the discussions well about the old rotary food trucks. ARC Infrastructure asked us to man the zigzag to go across the train station to get to the toilets. We had to have a person on each side to make sure people got across safely. We had to have someone there to do management. You can't just... Anyway, yeah.
I hear you. Councillor Bromham?
Yeah, I just thought, if we're coming back into a state ownership, they might build us a new station in Harvey to go with the Austral End.
There we go. Add it to the list. I just want to bring it back into the grant application. So we had that presentation or deputation by the Brunswick Ag Society. So I just want to confirm the $50,000 that we agreed to fund for the Murray Pickett kitchen upgrade, that has, I'm assuming that's lapsed. We don't hold on to that, do we, for them to come back in 2 years' time and say we've decided we want to do the kitchen now? Or what actually happens with that funding? Was it 2 years? Oh no, I'm just I'm just saying that. Yeah, what's occurred with that decision that we made, and yeah.
We're just waiting on the nod from Mamani.
I will take that question on notice as well, Councillor, because Sunil? Sunil would like to speak to you.
Going to speak. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you, Madam President. We have transferred that 50,000 back to the Community Grants Reserve. So, so it's sitting in the reserves.
Okay, thank you.
But whether we honour the original approval is a council decision, I guess.
Okay. All righty, Councillor Dickinson.
Apologies, but to follow on from that, so that would come back to council for the state to make a decision on the status of that grant.
Yes, ideally we would be able to provide an update on that at the next round of community funding, so that it gives council an idea of how much you've got to spend, whether that 50,000 is actually available to spend or not. So yeah, we would bring that back as part of the next round. We'll work with them in the meantime.
Councillor McCarthy.
Sorry, just have been involved with grant applications with the Shire before, and part of the terms were always that it was acquitted within like 12 months or something. Is there not a time frame?
Amani, please come forward.
thank you for your query, Councillor. So it is dependent on the projects. Obviously, there are some projects that are infrastructure projects, and it would not be reasonable for them to be finished within 12 months. So it's not set in stone. It's majority of them are acquitted within 12 months, but there are some that are larger projects which are not going to be completed with that. So it's on a case by case basis.
May I follow up with that in that if it's coming up to the 12-month period, we will always reach out to the organisation and see if there's an issue, if there are extenuating circumstances. So it's not like we go, right, 30th of June, you're done, hand back the money. We certainly work with the organisations involved.
And would we be requesting them to put something in writing to ask for that to be extended, that timeframe?
Yes, there is a process in place in that they do need to reach out to advise if their project is going to go over, and we do work with them. We understand that they are community groups. However, it is that they are required to reach out. It is within our guidelines that if they foresee that their project is going to go past that acquittal deadline, which is stipulated in their agreements when they sign them, their grant agreements, then they do need, the onus is on them to reach out, and we can work with them.
Through the chair, I would say in regards to the correspondence that has come through from the Brunswick Ag Society in relation to setting aside the money at this time, is that the project is not currently progressing, and we know that there have been major impediments in regards to being able to progress this project as it is. So as mentioned from Sunil, that money has gone back into the reserve, and necessarily this project would need to come back. The wording is prioritising investment into the events officer position, and so for all purposes this project is not progressing at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Been a long day. Yep. All right, we have a couple of notice of motions. So there's one there from Councillor Carboni that will come to the August OCM, and Councillor Coleman has sent through a notice of motion that will be in the agenda for next week to be considered. No further questions? All right. So, yes. As we know, before I sign off and close the meeting, that this is the final one for our CEO. So, Annie, on behalf of Council and the wider community, I'd like to sincerely thank you for your outstanding service and dedication over the past 8 years. During her time as CEO, Annie's worked alongside 3 Shire presidents and a number of councillors, providing steady leadership through both opportunities and challenges. And the CEO role is really not an easy gig. However, her commitment to securing significant funding, which will see delivery of some really major projects that have been on our books for some time, and strengthening our organisation, has left a lasting legacy for the Shire. So whilst we're naturally disappointed to see you leave, we are equally proud that you have been appointed to lead a Band 1 local government. So I see that as a promotion to the City of Busselton. And this appointment reflects your capability and is a well-deserved promotion. So Annie, thank you for your professionalism, leadership and unwavering commitment to our council and to our communities. And on behalf of everyone sitting around the table and in all of our out there in our community, we wish you every success in the next chapter of your career in local government. So thank you very much, Annie. Having said that, and there's no matters behind closed doors, I declare this agenda briefing closed. Thank you very much, everybody.
And I'm taking this.
No, you can't. I've got to